The Miami Dolphins signed quarterback Zach Wilson to a one-year contract on Monday, and for some Dolphin fans, they're already losing their minds. Zach Wilson comes to the Miami Dolphins with both talent and experience, and that's something that they haven't had in a backup quarterback in quite some time, maybe since Teddy Bridgewater. And the Dolphins had guys like Mike White, Skylar Thompson, Tyler Huntley, and Tim Boyle, and Zach Wilson has more starts than all four of those guys combined. So when you consider the amount of talent he has and the amount of experience he has, the Dolphins did a really good job of securing him as their backup quarterback. Now, there were some other guys in the market that had more success in the NFL than Zach Wilson. This is true, but the Dolphins were facing a precarious salary cap situation, and they were looking for a guy on the market that had the most starting experience at the cheapest price. And Zach Wilson is your guy. There's some other guys who had much bigger contracts being backup quarterbacks, but for the Dolphins, this is what fit into their salary cap structure. So Zach Wilson comes with first round pedigree, and he also comes with dazzling arm talent. Now, that's not enough for you to win football games in the NFL. If it was, he'd still be the starter in New York, but it does give you some clay to work with that you can mold and shape into a guy who can be a productive backup in the NFL. Now, there's a long way to go before Zach Wilson can be a backup to Tua Tagovailoa. I mean, there's a lot of reps he has to go through. There's a lot of things he'd have to do on the field in order to get himself ready to play in Mike McDaniel's very complicated system. But the good thing is, Zach Wilson played under Matt LaFleur, who coached under Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco. So being part of that San Francisco West Coast Kyle Shanahan system can probably help Zach Wilson as he transitions to being a backup quarterback for Miami. As we all know, Mike McDaniel has ties to Kyle Shanahan, so there might be some overlap in the offense there, but it remains to be seen how that experience in that system will help Zach Wilson. It's not like he played well in that system in New York, right? So even if he comes to Miami, there's no guarantee he'll play any better than he played with New York. But the good thing is he has incentive to want to play better. You know, if he wants to salvage his career and go down the road like a guy like Sam Darnold, who was considered to be a high draft bust, but now he's rehabilitating his playing career. And now he got a lucrative deal with the Seattle Seahawks. This is where Zach Wilson can find himself in a couple of years if he's able to grow as a quarterback. And right now, the Dolphins have to work on a few things when it comes to Zach Wilson. When you watch his tape, you know, there seems to be a lot of issues with his mechanics. They're very inconsistent. He's all over the place with his body. So that definitely leads to accuracy issues. So the Dolphins have to work on that with him. And fortunately, the Dolphins have a quarterbacks coach in Darrell Bevell who did wonders with Tua Tagovailoa with his footwork and his mechanics. So if Darrell Bevell can get his hands on Zach Wilson and teach him some of the nuances of the quarterback position, especially as it relates to the Kyle Shanahan system in Miami, then maybe it can help him to be a more productive quarterback. Now, me personally, I would have probably signed him for 2 years. I know the Dolphins probably wanted to get him a 1-year trial, and that's understandable. But if Mike White can get a 2-year contract from the Dolphins, then so can Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson clearly has more talent, more upside, and I think he would have been worthy of a 2-year contract, where maybe that's something that Zach Wilson didn't want. So it could have been on that side of it. But if I'm the Miami Dolphins, I would try to have signed him for a 2-year contract, if not for anything, to align his contract up with Tua's. In 2 years, the Dolphins can get out of Tua's contract with very minimal salary cap implications. And I would like to have seen those two contracts line up at the same time so you can make a decision at the quarterback position. If Zach Wilson develops into a guy who can be a competent starter, you don't want him to have to either franchise him or kick him to the curb, right? That's not what you want. With the Minnesota Vikings, they had Sam Darnold as a backup quarterback. JJ McCarthy went down the preseason, and then Sam Darnold started the entire season, played very well, led them to a 14-3 record. But because he was under a 1-year deal, when it came time for him to become a free agent, they let him walk. They couldn't franchise him, so he ended up getting a lucrative deal from the Seahawks. The Dolphins could find themselves in a similar situation with Zach Wilson. If Tua goes down for whatever reason this season, and Zach Wilson comes in and steps up, then maybe he balls out, maybe he plays well, and now the Dolphins don't have that option to keep him on the roster unless they franchise him. And they won't be able to franchise him if Tua's already making $53 million. And Tua was already under contract under heavy salary cap obligations for the next 2 years. So to me, it would have made more sense to lock up Zach Wilson in a 2-year deal and line it up with Tua's contract. But the Dolphins decided not to go in that direction. But that's probably the biggest difference for me in the organization. I would have given him a 2-year deal. But the Dolphins decided to go with the young player who was cheaper, and we'll see how that develops later on. Now, it's also a possibility the Dolphins could be adding another quarterback to the roster, right? Maybe they have plans to bring someone else in. Maybe if the market doesn't pan out for a Jameis Winston or somebody else, maybe they might bring that guy in too. Who knows? I'm not sure if they will. I don't think they will, but you're not sure. This is something they might keep open in case the right guy becomes available. They might decide to make a move. But for right now, Zach Wilson is the number 2 quarterback. His salary kind of necessitates that, right? 1 year, $6 million with the potential to go up to $10 million. He's the backup quarterback for now. And for the Dolphins, it's risky, but still you understand the decision nonetheless. And if you're a Dolphin fan, I definitely understand why you would feel upset about this signing. But look at it from the bright side, right? He has a lot of potential to be something better than the Dolphins have had in the past. And the Dolphins have gone down this road before. If you're old enough to remember Joey Harrington and Josh Rosen, those guys are also top 5 picks who failed and came on the Miami Dolphins and then failed. So there is a precedent for this not working for the Miami Dolphins as it had in the past. But maybe this time will be different. Maybe Zach Wilson will be able to do what those other quarterbacks couldn't do when they had an opportunity to start for the Miami Dolphins. So that's it for this video. If you like this video, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button to get all the latest content. And leave a comment in the section below. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.